My mother handed my sister a velvet box at her engagement party. Inside was her wedding ring, the one my father had given her 32 years ago. A 2-carat diamond in a platinum setting that had been appraised at $18,000. My sister cried. My mother cried. Everyone clapped. Then my mother turned to me, reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This is for you, Melissa," she said. "Grandma wanted you to have it." I unfolded the paper in front of 40 guests. It was an invoice, a storage unit bill. $97 a month, past due by 3 months. Total owed $291. Unit 247 at Secure Store on Route 9. I looked at my mother. She was already hugging my sister again, admiring how the ring caught the light. 8 months later, I sat in a lawyer's office in Manhattan while he explained that the contents of Unit 247 had been appraised at $1.2 million. Antique furniture from the 1800s. A collection of first-edition books worth $300,000 alone. Jewelry my grandmother had hidden from everyone, including her own daughter. Oil paintings by artists whose names I'd only seen in museums. And a letter, handwritten, dated 6 months before she died, explaining exactly why she'd left it all to me, and nothing to my mother or sister. "They never visited," she wrote. "Not once in 4 years. You came every Sunday. You read to me. You held my hand when I was afraid. This is yours, Melissa. All of it. Don't let them take it from you. Let me take you back because this story isn't about a storage unit or a ring or even $1.2 million. It's about being the granddaughter who showed up, the daughter who was overlooked, and the woman who learned that real inheritance isn't what's given at parties. It's what's earned in quiet rooms when nobody's watching. If you've ever been handed the bill while your sibling got the treasure, if you've ever been the one who showed up and got nothing in return, you already know this story isn't about money. It's about finally getting what you deserved from someone who actually saw you. Growing up, my sister Victoria was the favorite. Not just my mother's favorite, everyone's favorite. She was 2 years older, prettier, more confident, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately became the center of it. I was quieter, bookish, the one who preferred corners to spotlights. My mother used to introduce us to her friends by saying, "This is Victoria, my social butterfly, and this is Melissa, my little mouse." I was 12 the first time I heard her say it. I remember the way the women laughed, like it was charming, like being a mouse was endearing. It wasn't. It was a label that stuck. Victoria was the butterfly. I was the mouse. And mice don't get diamonds. My grandmother was different. Grandma Eleanor lived alone in a small house 2 towns over, the house she'd shared with my grandfather before he died when I was 6. She wasn't warm exactly, not in the way grandmothers in movies are, but she was honest. She told you what she thought. She noticed things other people missed. When I was 14, I started visiting her on Sunday afternoons. My mother would drop me off, say she'd be back in 2 hours, then leave to take Victoria to whatever activity was more important that week. Dance recitals, cheerleading practice, boyfriend drama that required immediate maternal attention. I'd sit with Grandma Eleanor in her living room, surrounded by old furniture and older books, and we'd talk. Or sometimes we wouldn't talk. Sometimes we'd just sit together while she read and I did homework, comfortable in the silence the way some people never learn to be. "Your mother doesn't visit," Grandma Eleanor said one afternoon when I was 16. I looked up from my calculus textbook. She was staring out the window, her coffee growing cold in her hands. "She calls sometimes, sends cards on holidays, but she doesn't visit." I didn't know what to say. My mother did seem to always have excuses. Work, Victoria's schedule, headaches, traffic. "Victoria doesn't visit either," Grandma Eleanor continued. She's been to this house twice in 3 years, both times for money. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were sharp, searching. But you come every Sunday. Why? I thought about it. I like it here, I said finally. It's quiet. You don't expect me to be anyone but me. She nodded slowly. That's a rare thing, Melissa. Finding someone who lets you be yourself. Most people want you to perform for them. Your mother wants Victoria because Victoria performs, sparkles, makes her look good at parties. You don't perform. You just are. She picked up her coffee, sipped it even though it must have been cold. I was like you once, before I learned to pretend. Those Sunday visits continued through high school and college. I went to a state school an hour away, close enough to keep visiting, while Victoria went to a private university in California that cost my parents $60,000 a year. I worked part-time at the campus library, paid for my own books, graduated with minimal debt. Victoria graduated with a communications degree, $60,000 in loans my parents eventually paid off, and a series of boyfriends who all seemed to have trust funds. She moved back east after graduation, got a job in PR at a firm her boyfriend's father owned, and started posting photos of rooftop brunches and designer handbags. I got a job at a nonprofit that helped elderly people stay in their homes. The pay was modest. The work was meaningful. My mother asked me at least once a month when I was going to get a real job like Victoria. Grandma Eleanor got sick when I was 26. Dementia at first, slow and subtle, then faster. She'd forget what day it was, then what year. She'd call me by my mother's name, then apologize with tears in her eyes. I increased my visits to twice a week, then 3 times. Then every day I could manage after work. I'd bring her dinner, help her with medications, read to her from the books she'd loved before the words started swimming on the page. My mother visited once during the first 6 months of the decline. She stayed 45 minutes, said Grandma Eleanor didn't even recognize her, said it was too hard to watch. Victoria never came at all. The last year was the hardest. Grandma Eleanor had to move to a care facility. I visited every Sunday, same as always, even when she didn't know who I was. I'd sit beside her bed and read aloud from Jane Austen, her favorite, while she stared at the ceiling or slept. The mouse, she whispered once, near the end. The quiet one. You came. I didn't know if she knew it was me. I said yes. I came. I always came. She died on a Tuesday in March. I got the call at work, left immediately, sat in my car in the parking lot of the care facility for an hour before I could make myself drive home. My mother's reaction was strange, sad but also relieved, like a burden had been lifted. Victoria flew in for the funeral, stayed 2 days, complained about the hotel, left before the reception was over. At the reading of the will, my mother inherited the house and a modest investment account, about $200,000 total. Victoria got $20,000 in cash. I got nothing mentioned by name, just a reference to personal effects previously arranged. My mother seemed satisfied. Victoria seemed annoyed she hadn't gotten more. I felt hollow, not because of money, but because I'd spent 10 years visiting and it seemed like I'd been forgotten. 3 months later, the engagement party. Victoria's boyfriend proposed with a ring that cost more than my annual salary. My mother threw a party at a restaurant that cost $15,000 to rent. The velvet box came out during the toasts. My mother made a speech about passing down family treasures, about how Victoria would carry the legacy forward, about how some things matter more than money. Then she handed me the storage unit bill like an afterthought, like taking out the trash on her way to something more important. I paid the bill the next day. $291 on my credit card because I didn't have it in checking. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't ask my mother what was in the unit. Didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me care about whatever scraps Grandma Eleanor had left behind. I assumed it was old clothes, maybe some furniture too worn to sell. The detritus of a life that nobody wanted. I'd go through it eventually, donate what I could, throw away the rest. Another task the mouse was expected to handle while the butterflies sparkled. I didn't get to the storage unit for 3 weeks. Work was busy. Victoria's wedding planning was consuming my mother's attention, which meant constant calls asking me to help with things Victoria was too important to handle herself. Addressing invitations, researching caterers, comparing prices on flowers. I did it all because saying no meant hours of guilt and family helps family lectures. The mouse doesn't complain. The mouse just works. The day I finally drove to Secure Store on Route 9 was a Saturday in June. Hot, humid, the kind of day that makes you want to stay inside with air conditioning. The facility was a row of orange garage doors in a strip of industrial buildings off the highway. Unit 247 was in the back, a 10 by 20 space with a rusted padlock that took 3 tries to open. I pulled up the door expecting dust and disappointment. Instead, I stood frozen in the entrance, trying to understand what I was seeing. The unit was packed floor to ceiling, but not with junk, with furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, with boxes labeled in Grandma Eleanor's handwriting, with paintings wrapped in cloth, their frames gilded, their canvases larger than my apartment windows, with a wooden chest that, when I opened it, contained velvet cases of jewelry I'd never seen my grandmother wear. Necklaces with stones that caught the fluorescent light, bracelets that felt heavy in my hands, rings that looked older than my grandmother herself. I sat down on a covered armchair, dust rising around me, and tried to breathe. This wasn't scraps. This wasn't leftover furniture too worn to sell. This was a fortune, hidden, preserved, left for me and only me. I found the letter in a wooden box on top of the chest, handwritten on cream stationery in Grandma Eleanor's elegant script, dated 6 months before she died, when she still had moments of clarity between the fog. Dear Melissa, it began, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've found what I've been keeping from everyone. I know this will seem strange. Your mother believes I have nothing of value because I let her believe it. I let everyone believe it. The truth. First, I planned to leave it all to your mother, but then the years passed and I started watching. Watching who visited, who called, who cared. Your mother came to see me 4 times in 4 years. Victoria came twice. You came every Sunday for a decade. You read to me. You held my hand when I was scared. You saw me as a person, not an obligation. This is yours, Melissa. All of it. I've arranged everything legally through a lawyer whose information is in this box. The storage unit is in your name. The contents are documented and appraised. Don't let them take it from you. Don't let them make you feel guilty for receiving what you earned. You showed up. They didn't. That's the only inheritance that matters. With love, Grandma Eleanor. I read the letter 3 times. Then I found the lawyer's card in the box, called the number even though it was Saturday, and left a message explaining who I was. He called back within an hour. Told me he'd been waiting to hear from me, that Grandma Eleanor had been very specific about the arrangement. He asked me to come to his office Monday morning. He said there were things we needed to discuss. The appraisal documents were waiting on his desk when I arrived. 23 pages detailing every item in Unit 247, professionally assessed by 3 different experts over the 2 years before Grandma Eleanor died. The furniture alone was worth $400,000. A Chippendale secretary desk, 2 Federal period chairs, a Victorian sideboard with original hardware. The first edition books were valued at $310,000. First printings of Dickens, Austen, the Bronte sisters, all in excellent condition, all authenticated. The paintings were worth $280,000, including two small works by minor impressionists that had been purchased for nothing at an estate sale in 1972. The jewelry was appraised at $215,000, Victorian and Edwardian pieces that had belonged to my great-grandmother before being hidden away. Total value, $1,205,000. All of it legally mine, documented, taxed appropriately through the trust my grandmother had established, completely separate from her official will. I sat in that lawyer's office for 2 hours learning about the grandmother I thought I knew. She'd been planning this for years, had the items appraised while she could still make decisions, had set up the storage unit in my name without telling anyone. She anticipated conflict, the lawyer said carefully. She left specific instructions that I'm to represent your interests if any family members challenge the arrangement. The documentation is thorough. But she wanted me to warn you that they will try to take it. People always do when money is involved. I didn't tell anyone for 2 weeks. Kept going to work. Kept answering my mother's calls about wedding vendors. Kept being the mouse while I figured out what to do with $1.2 million in hidden treasure. The question was whether to keep it secret. Part of me wanted to sell everything quietly, invest the money, never tell my mother or Victoria anything. Let them live their whole lives not knowing what Grandma Eleanor had really left behind. But enough that Grandma Eleanor had seen everything they'd done and hadn't done, and she'd made her choice. Victoria's wedding was in September. 300 guests at a country club overlooking a lake. My mother wore a dress that cost $4,000. I wore a navy dress I'd bought myself. Simple and elegant. Sat at a table in the back with distant relatives, while my mother glowed next to her perfect daughter. I let it all wash over me because I knew something they didn't. The mouse had inherited the kingdom. The butterfly had gotten a ring. I told my mother 3 weeks after the wedding. She'd called to complain that I hadn't sent Victoria a thank you note for inviting me to the wedding, as if being allowed to attend my own sister's wedding required written gratitude. Something snapped. Not angrily, just quietly. A string that had been holding me to her expectations finally breaking. "Mom," I said, "I need to tell you something about Grandma Eleanor's storage unit." The silence on the phone was heavy. I could hear her breathing change. "What about it?" she asked. Her voice was careful now, suspicious. "I had it appraised," I said. "The contents are worth $1.2 million. Antique furniture, first edition books, paintings, jewelry." Grandma had been collecting for 40 years with Grandpa. She left it all to me in a separate trust. Her lawyer has all the documentation. More silence, then. "That's not possible. Mother had nothing. She lived in that tiny house. She wore the same clothes for years. She had nothing." "She had everything," I said. "She just hid it. She didn't trust you to appreciate it. She didn't trust Victoria at all. She left a letter explaining why. Do you want every word, including the part about 4 visits in 4 years, about Victoria coming twice and only for money, about me showing up every Sunday for a decade?" I read her the line about earning inheritance through presence, not performance. I read her the final instruction not to let them take it from me. When I finished, the silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. "That's not fair," she finally said. Her voice was different now, harder. "I was busy. I had responsibilities. You didn't have a husband or children or a career to manage. You had time to visit. That doesn't make you better than us." "No," I agreed. "It doesn't make me better, but it made me present. And that's what Grandma valued. Not performance, presence." We'll contest it, my mother said. That money should be family money. Split equally. You can't keep it all. Actually, I can, I said. The trust is legally airtight. Grandma made sure of it. She knew exactly what you'd try to do. She was senile, my mother snapped. She didn't know what she was doing. We'll prove she was incompetent when she made those decisions. The trust was established 4 years ago. The appraisals were done 3 years ago. The letter was written 18 months before she died, during a documented period of lucidity, witnessed by her lawyer and her doctor. You can try to contest it, but you'll lose, and it will cost you a lot of money you don't have. I paused. Let the math settle. Or you can accept that your mother saw how you treated her and made her choice, the same way you made yours when you gave Victoria your ring and gave me a bill. She hung up without another word. I sat in my apartment holding my phone, waiting to feel something. Guilt. Triumph. Anger. Instead, I felt quiet. Settled. Like a door had finally closed on a room I'd been trapped in my whole life. Victoria called the next day, screaming, "How could I do this to the family? How could I hoard money that should be shared?" Did I think I was better than everyone just because I visited some old woman who didn't even know who she was half the time? I let her scream for 3 minutes. Then I said, "You visited twice in 3 years, both times to ask for money." Grandma remembered. She wrote it down. She made her choice. I'm sorry you don't like it, but I'm not sorry I have it. Victoria called me a selfish bitch and hung up. My mother hired a lawyer. I got a letter 2 weeks later saying they intended to challenge the trust on grounds of undue influence. My grandmother's lawyer responded with 40 pages of documentation proving Grandma Eleanor had been of sound mind, that she'd initiated the arrangement without any input from me. The case never went to court. Their lawyer told them they'd lose. My mother tried calling me again, her tone softer now, talking about family and forgiveness. I told her Grandma Eleanor had written exactly what she wanted in a letter, and sharing wasn't mentioned. I sold some of the items over the following year. The paintings went to auction and brought in more than the appraisal predicted. The furniture went to collectors who appreciated what they were getting. The books I kept, most of them, because I remembered reading them to Grandma Eleanor and couldn't bear to let them go. The jewelry I kept too, locked in a safe deposit box. The money changed my life, but not in the ways my mother probably imagined. I didn't quit my job at the nonprofit. I bought a modest apartment. Nothing flashy, just space that was mine. I invested most of it, set up a trust of my own, created security I'd never had before. My mother and I have a relationship now, if you can call it that. Surface conversations at holidays, polite exchanges that never go deeper than the weather. She's never apologized for trying to take what Grandma Eleanor left me. She's never acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, the daughter who showed up deserved to be seen. Victoria and I don't speak at all. She blocked me on everything after the lawyer's letter came. I hear she's struggling now. The PR job didn't work out. The husband left. She's back in our parents' basement trying to figure out what comes next. I don't feel good about that. I don't feel much about it at all. I visit Grandma Eleanor's grave every month. Bring flowers. Talk to her sometimes. Tell her about my life, about the books I'm reading, about the trips I've taken. I tell her thank you for seeing me when nobody else did. For valuing presence over performance, for teaching me that being quiet doesn't mean being invisible, that showing up matters even when nobody's watching, that the mouse can inherit the kingdom if she just keeps coming back. I still have the storage unit bill. The original one. The folded piece of paper my mother handed me at Victoria's engagement party like it was trash. I had it framed. It hangs in my hallway next to one of the smaller paintings Grandma Eleanor left me, a landscape by an artist nobody famous, worth only a few $1,000s, but my favorite because it was hanging in her living room all those years I visited. If you've ever been called a mouse while a butterfly got all the light, remember that butterflies are fragile and mice survive. The people who perform get applause. The people who show up get something better. They get remembered by the ones who matter. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been the overlooked one who ended up with more than anyone expected? Have you ever had a grandparent who saw you when your parents didn't? I read every story. Subscribe for more stories about the quiet ones who inherited kingdoms. Sometimes the greatest gifts don't come in velvet boxes. Sometimes they come in storage unit bills,